In the comparative theology of Abrahamic religions, the concept of divine covenants occupies a central role. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all trace their spiritual lineage to the prophet Abraham, but they diverge in their understanding of which covenant is binding and through whom it continues. One unique Islamic perspective highlights the theological and symbolic significance of sacred relics and the distinction between the Abrahamic covenant and the Sinai Mosaic covenant. This article explores how Islamic scholars frame the continuity of divine promise, drawing attention to the absence of Abrahamic relics in Jewish tradition and the centrality of Abrahamic symbolism in Islamic rites. 1. Two covenants, Abrahamic and Sinai. The Abrahamic covenant, as recorded in both the Bible and Quran, was made between God and Abraham, promising a multitude of descendants, a blessed lineage, a divinely appointed land. In contrast, the Sinai covenant, or Mosaic covenant, was established generations later, between God and the Israelites through Moses at Mount Sinai. This covenant was heavily centered on legal ordinances, ritual purity, and national identity. Islamic scholars underscore this distinction, arguing that while the Sinai covenant was specific to the Israelites and conditional upon their obedience, the Abrahamic covenant is universal, unconditional, and eternal, forming the foundation of Islamic monotheism. 2. Islamic continuity, inheriting the Abrahamic legacy. From an Islamic theological standpoint, the Prophet Muhammad is seen as a direct descendant of Abraham through his firstborn son, Ishmael. This lineage is critical in Islamic thought, as it places Muhammad and the Muslim Ummah within the direct stream of Abrahamic blessing and covenantal responsibility. Islam views itself not as a new religion, but as the revival and perfection of the original Abrahamic faith. This perspective is reinforced by the Quran's emphasis on following the religion of Abraham, the upright. Quran, Surah 3, verse 95, and by prophetic traditions affirming the reconstruction of the house of God, Kaaba, by Abraham and Ishmael. 3. The role of sacred relics. A distinctive element of the Islamic argument involves the presence or absence of Abrahamic relics. In Islam, the Kaaba, house of God, in Mecca, is considered the house built by Abraham and Ishmael. Quran Surah 2, verses 125 to 127, accompanied by the black stone, Hajar al-Aswad, and the station of Abraham, Maqam Ibrahim. These physical sites serve as living relics of the Abrahamic legacy, venerated by over 1 billion Muslims worldwide. In Judaism, no physical relic directly associated with Abraham has been preserved. The most significant ancient artifact, the Ark of the Covenant, belongs to the Mosaic era and is tied to the Sinai covenant, not Abraham. Moreover, it was lost during the destruction of the first temple. Islamic scholars point to this contrast to suggest that the direct covenantal heritage of Abraham has been preserved in Islam, not in Judaism. The absence of relics connected to Abraham in Jewish tradition is interpreted by some as symbolic of a rupture in the transmission of his legacy. 4. The Ark of the Covenant, significance and loss. The Ark of the Covenant remains an iconic symbol in Jewish history. It was said to contain the tablets of the law, Torah, and represented the divine presence among the Israelites. However, from an Islamic perspective, the Ark is not seen as an Abrahamic relic, but rather as a Mosaic artifact. Its eventual loss during the Babylonian destruction of the First Temple is often viewed by Islamic scholars as a symbolic termination of the Sinai covenant, marking the end of that specific historical phase of divine interaction. 5. Universality of the Abrahamic covenant in Islam. A key theme in Islamic theology is the universality of the Abrahamic covenant. Unlike the Sinai covenant, which was exclusively for the children of Israel, the Abrahamic covenant, according to Islamic understanding, was meant for all peoples who follow the monotheistic path of submission to God, Islam. This universalism is enshrined in the Quran, Surah 22, verse 78. It is He who has named you Muslims before, and in this revelation, that the messenger may be a witness over you, and you may be witnesses over mankind. Thus, Islam positions itself as the final and universal expression of the Abrahamic mission, encompassing all of humanity beyond ethnic or tribal lines. 6. Supersession and theological fulfillment. While Islam respects the prophets of Judaism and Christianity, many Islamic scholars adopt a form of theological supersessionism, the idea that Islam, as revealed to Muhammad, completes and supersedes previous revelations. This includes both the Abrahamic and Mosaic covenants. According to this view, the Quran is the final testament, and the Muslim community, Ummah, is the rightful heir to Abraham's spiritual legacy, fulfilling his vision of pure monotheism, Tawheed, untainted by tribal exclusivism or theological alteration. Conclusion: the Islamic view on the Abrahamic and Sinai covenants is deeply rooted in both theological reasoning and historical symbolism. By emphasizing the continuity of Abrahamic rites, the preservation of sacred relics, and the universal scope of its message, Islam asserts itself as the true fulfillment of the covenant established with Abraham. The absence of equivalent Abrahamic relics in Jewish tradition and the eventual disappearance of the Ark are seen not as mere historical events, but as spiritual markers, signifying a shift from the tribal covenant of Sinai to the universal mission embodied by Islam. While these perspectives are uniquely Islamic and may not be shared by Jewish or Christian theology, they contribute meaningfully to the broader discourse on how each faith understands its relationship with Abraham, the friend of God.